Just like a tree grows and adapts to its environment, shedding leaves and enduring storms, product professionals must also grow, adapt, and stay rooted in authenticity to thrive. And let's dive into how those elements work together to foster product career growth and success. Because today we're joined by Katya Deneke, Chief Product Officer at Holland and Barrett. And she's going to be sharing her insights on embracing authenticity, learning from setbacks, and fostering a fulfilling work culture for success. In this episode, brought to you by our friends at Amplitude. I'm Ross Webb. Coming up in this episode, bringing your full self to work, authenticity and workplace dynamics, personal fulfillment and workplace culture, and lessons from digital transformations. Katya, I'm really excited to discuss digital transformations. But first, there's one question I've really been meaning to ask. Let's talk about bringing your full self to work, because it can be challenging. But how has embracing authenticity impacted your career and the results for your product teams?
Where entitlement culture starts in that, and I think you're right in there are ways to take it too far, at least this part of it. Then I'm thinking about bringing the full self to work and about this kind of aspect. I think less about perks and this angle of friendliness, more about authenticity, how serious we are at work, because I think on average people are way too serious. Like it's massively overrated, because the perception is you, in order to achieve something great or in order to show a great strategy of work, whatever, you kind of you almost need to overcomplicate it to a point, right? And I think the more we break this mentality to simplifying and showing that kind of you can be yourself, you can still be fun in your definition of fun, right? And what is natural and right for you. You don't have to sound formal or complicated to really deliver the real value to the business. And that's, to me, it's all about, really. And in my career, to your question, where it worked for me and where I struggled with this more, I think it depends. So various situations I've been in, I think long-term, though, if you look at the long-term perspective, it always led to the benefits for myself and my career. Short-term, not always so, because sometimes you kind of, let's say you appear in a very, very formal environment, which has, especially in the companies that go through transformation, part of the transformation, it's part of this change of the culture to more of like perhaps tech-enabled, naturally informal culture. And I felt that numerous times in the rooms, I've been this kind of white crow of this person who seems to be this clear, palpable misfit because of the way they behave, right? Because of the way they trying to, I'd be the first one to break a silence in the meeting room to say, so, how's your kids? How's your weekend been? Tell me about that, and things like this. Or I remember once I received the constructive feedback because I sat on the floor on the exec meeting. Because it was the closest logical place to be to the screen and in the middle of the things. But nevertheless, some people rightly so perceived it as kind of a thing that affected my credibility in a way. But I think all those things, they are more of the short-term perception bits. And I feel if we wait it on a longer-term perspective, I'm a huge advocate of bringing your full self to work. Like we do, talk about our kids. Sometimes I'll bring my daughter to a meeting if I know it will be appropriate. One of the things I've done returning back from maternity leave, I had a big team gathering. So the whole product design team from H&B, basically get together day. And that was my either first or second month after the maternity leave. My daughter was she was 6 months old. And I was to lead the meeting and to give the speech. And I was like, I'm bringing her to this meeting. I'm going to do it, literally holding her some points as much as I can. And the reason not being honest with you, not that I had to do this. Like I could leave her at home with her nanny, but I really wanted to, because I really wanted to show an example to my team members of how it is possible to be real you, to be a mom.
Katya, experiencing setbacks and changes beyond our control can be tough. How do you think these challenges impact the way we bring our full selves to work? And what lessons can we learn from them?
Thinking about coming back to the entitlement theme and to the first world problems of how privileged we all are, I'm thinking about it a lot. Of course, being like from Russian, Ukrainian heritage, my hometown is now being bombed and all, and like it's all, it's all getting you back to thinking how lucky we really are to be where we are and to be in the situations, having the train coming. I think that bit there, which seems to be a common theme to me, it's about this human common sense approach from both sides, whatever those both sides are. And it might be a company and employee, because sometimes companies are acting in this entitled manner, and sometimes employees do. And I think it's all about kind of getting it back to what is the human, almost ethical thing to do, if you excuse this term. But when I'm thinking about these things, so one of the examples you kind of provoked in me is how people in your company effectively took the bikes and they delivered the orders. We're doing this thing at H&B quite often, as in I'm asking my product managers and engineers sometimes to work in stores. And each time, and I do it myself in St. Albans stores, like basically doing I think they are excellent there, but what it gives you, it's this connection to the customers, to colleagues, which you won't get before. And the amount of stories we had, and people after that coming like super passionate with the eyes open and saying like, I really, really want to deliver this thing. We had I think we had a case in which we have our own self-developed deals, so on development, and we had a long-standing argument between engineer and product management on like one aspect of this deal functionality. And our engineer went once and talked to store colleagues and kind of worked in store for a day. Next day, 4 hours of the day come by, he did deliver this functionality. They had an argument about it because he was like, I understand now. And those are the simple things, right? Very, very simple. They are in every product book, like dog foods, whatever you call it. But this is something they matters, and this is what gives meaning. And this is, I think, a part of bringing your full self to work, because it's connecting your personal experience with what you do. Call center, the same thing, right? Every time I'm a customer engagement center, no matter in what company I'm working throughout whole my career, best hours, when I'm actually listening to what actual problems right here, right now, our customers are having. And so that's been a huge influence on me usually. Then if we get back to this question of what is the right, what is the right balance of basically this engagement identity and how you're bringing your full self to work, inviting in things. I think it is about, to me, it's back about what gives you the better results for individual and for the company, as in what makes you the happiest as an individual, most fulfilled, and what gives the best to your company. And I remember an example which really irritated me like a few years back. My friend works for a bank, and the requirement, so she works for an IT department in bank, right? For tech, effectively she writes code. But one thing they required for her is to come like a full costume suit to work. That's like a dress code. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like you're an engineer, you're writing code. Why? It's basically just like almost a PowerPoint. And two is they asking them to come to 9 a.m. sharp. And if you're 10 minutes late, they believe they there is a penalty. So you take the pass on your way to work, and effectively the company calculating this. And this has frustrated me a lot, because I think that's like an anti-pattern example. It's bad for the company because some of your engineers will have a different rhythm, right, of how they live. So if you get them to work at 9 a.m., they wouldn't be the most productive selves. And they would be constantly annoyed with you. You will get zero innovation, things like this. And it's also bad for the people. So, and if you look at any company, I think there is a number of examples like that in this quadrant, which are non-controversial. Like if you remove that, it will be better for people, better for the company. Like in my mind, my personal humble opinion, if you remove way too much seriousness in work communication and how meetings go and things like that, it's better for people because it makes them happier. And it's better for the company because it makes relationship more, it effectively makes things easier. No matter what crisis you're going through, you can just, kind of easier to do that with a bit of humor.
Well, it really sounds like you're suggesting that we should focus on the environments that allow us to be authentic and human in our work. And can you elaborate on how being true to oneself can impact personal fulfillment and the overall work environment?
I'm not sure. Let me think about it a bit. I'm not sure about need part of it, as in you don't need to work in those environments. You can do whatever you want. If you want to dress in not a casual, in the office official outfit, like white shirt and suit every day, by all means, come to work at 9 a.m. It might work for some people. But what I would say, I think that being human, being authentic and being yourself, as in having bits of your life somehow displayed at your work personality, I personally feel that it helps you to be a happy, fulfilled person at your work, and it helps the work environment because then if even the one person starts doing something like this, and I've been in a situation where I'm starting to do it in many rooms, in many times, it kind of warms up the whole environment, and it helps people to achieve their business goals as well, like in particular. So my advice then in this case would be just to consider. You don't need to do it, but to consider where you can be, where perhaps you feel that you want to be more authentic, and do not be afraid being vulnerable of acting against the existing pattern if you don't believe that pattern is right. Because, yes, sometimes you will fail, but life is too short not to be your true self.
I really like that. And as we wrap up today, let's finish on digital transformations, which are crucial for many organizations. And based on your experience, what are the key elements that drive a successful digital transformation?
I've been in a number of transformations, large or small, 2 big transformations in my career. I've seen end-to-end, including the one we are coming to the closer end of now at H&B. I think, first of all, when I'm thinking about product transformation, let's define it a bit, or product and tech part of it, right? And here's where I'm really aligned with Marty Kagan terminology. I don't know how close it is to you, but yeah, I really like how he writes about it and how he defines it very, very simply. The whole transformed book or workshop, whatever you prefer, around how do we move to the product operating model, effectively solving it's about how we solve problems, right? So to figure out the right engineering components, CI/CD, and breaking it down to a small models of delivering value. It's about the proper product discovery, right? Or how we, rather than receiving features, we do actually apply proper discovery process, which requires coaching of product managers and such, and empowering of product managers also importantly to lead this process. And it's the third and the hardest probably to figure out, how do you choose what problems to solve, or how do you drive the overall strategy, company strategy, technology strategy, so it influences business goals, and so you use the full product capability to select the most impactful things. Right. This is, I think that's the reason I wanted to talk about it, because I think it's very, very helpful when we talk about transformation. There is lots and lots of things involved, right? But I think it's helpful to narrow down the focus. And I've genuinely just retold Marty's definition here. In terms of what I learned, and to be honest with you, tons of things. I tried, when I thought about it for our chat today, I tried to distill just a few. And if I mention kind of three things. One, my one big insight was that, particularly in transformation context, knowing what is the right thing to do and being able to execute this thing, two completely different skill sets. So, and I think it's less so in the product-led companies or in product-born companies, because you spend most of your effort figuring out kind of what is the right thing to do for your customers, for structured experiments. But when you're in transformation, it's effectively the huge focus of it is change. Change is uncomfortable. Change requires lots of empathy, ability to connect, ability to find how various people with super different backgrounds, super different way of how they see in the world can align together and kind of start driving in the same direction of whatever metric or user change or whatever this might be. And I find that in transformations, it's very, very helpful from the beginning, never to underestimate how the second component of influence and knowing how to drive this right outcome matters a lot. And I think the ways to drive it is through empathetic ability to connect with various perspectives, because if you don't do that, you can get yourself in such a silo where like all the teams are looking in all the various directions. But it would be interesting to know what's your experience with this been. And second is also knowing where this empathy should stop, as in knowing where is the boundary of finding the common ground, because sometimes the other end of it is being way too empathetic, so then you're doing no transformation at all. You're not moving forward. Around this constant communication, because because of the inertia, right? If you're in transformation, that might be like 30 years old company or 150 years old company as Holland and Barrett, and you basically, if you're introducing the new rules of the game, you then have to, if you don't constantly remind people of these new rules, even if they agreed to them at some point in time, the ship will slowly turn as inertia is turning it. So it's this question of thinking ahead, how you will constantly remind people of those things without being preachy. In my experience, it's about selecting, because it's a huge organization, right? Lots of product team across the areas. So selecting a few pioneers who will have a cross-functional group of shouting how it works for them in terms of the business result, of kind of making everyone want to join the hype or the party, whatever it is. I've actually received a really interesting constructive feedback about it a while ago, because I was this huge advocate of communicating transformation, advocating for technology team and things like this. And one of the things our CEO told me, it's like, Katya, you know what's the problem of your communication when you kind of talk about all those things we achieved as a technology team or whatever? And I was like, what? Tell me. He was like, you're always way too excited. Which was so interesting for me, because if you try to play it back, if you try to really digest it, you understand how it works. As in, I was thinking there is no way to overdo excitement. And I'm absolutely in love with what our technology team has done, what our product team has done over the last 3 years. I'm very proud of it. But I think the way I tend to talk about it, or I used to talk about it, it was from this place of almost, like sometimes you get this annoying mom in the group. You're supposed to, that's a general way of communication. In order for people to be receptive, you're supposed to kind of dial it down a bit, right? And to be more like, oh, but they're not good in math or whatever it is, to compensate for the genius violin playing. And this is effectively something I was not doing well, resulting in this constantly super excited, super positive manner, which made people which prevented people from resonating with this well.
Well, just as a tree thrives by staying rooted and adapting to its environment, we too can achieve personal fulfillment and professional success by embracing authenticity and learning from setbacks. You can follow Katya on LinkedIn to stay updated on her latest work and thoughts on leadership. I think she's great. And if you're eager for more knowledge in driving successful transformations, be sure to watch our interview with Stephanie Lauer on how to transform your team culture and accelerate your career. This episode was brought to you in partnership with our friends at Amplitude. So from me, Ross Webb, until next time, for Product Team Success, bye for now.